Welcome to the Three Old Goalies podcast. Thank you for taking the time to listen to the show. The Three Old Goalies is hosted by Greg Deutsch, Pat Johnston, and Eric Vaughter. Today's special guest is High Point University legend, Woody Gibson.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, welcome to Season 5, Episode 7. Who would have thought we'd ever get this far? Certainly nobody on the screen right now. Anyway, welcome to the Three Old Goalies. Our special guest tonight is a very dear friend of mine, Woody Gibson, who is an absolute legend at High Point University. You may have heard of High Point University lately because they pulled at least one upset in March Madness. And Woody has been he's basically been everything, as we'll get into at High Point University. But I first met Woody, it's got to be 40 years ago, right, Woody?
Right. Yes. Something like that.
Right.
Something like that. Maybe at least 40, 45. I don't know. A long time ago.
Long time ago. Long time ago. Back before cell phones. Let's put it that way.
That's right.
But yeah, and he's joining us tonight. And Pat Johnston from Florida is here, and Pat and I are in the same boat. We just watched Duke give up a 15-point lead over 30 minutes and managed to lose 1-0. What is it they say? Managed to snatch victory from the jaws.
From the jaws of victory.
From the jaws of victory. Yeah, exactly.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah. First day with the new mouth. Sorry. So, as I've always told our listeners, a couple of things we got to get through. Three Old Goalies is a bunch of old guys talking about soccer stories from way back when. Like most old guys, we can get a little bit salty. So if that offends you, please go listen to another soccer podcast. And more importantly, these are our opinions, and they're not set in stone. You can't have them. They're our opinions, but we do get into some opinionated stuff on this podcast, and we hope you will enjoy it. I know our guest is great tonight, so I'm looking forward to that. But before we get into that, this is a hot take Sunday. I'm going to go around the panel. Bone, give me your hot take on 5-2 against Belgium.
Embarrassing.
Thank you. Woody?
Absolutely embarrassing. To give up 4 goals like they did is just crazy.
Pat?
So does hot take mean one word?
Well, no.
I seriously don't know.
No, it doesn't mean one word. Just like
I'm encouraged. I thought they tried to play. There was some stupid, fundamental stuff. But honestly, I like this team a lot more than I liked them a year ago.
Okay. All right. Well, my hot take on it is I think we are at the point with U.S. soccer, and I've said this before, where all I care about is results. I don't care how we look playing. I don't care. I thought Anthony did a great job. I thought, that's wonderful, but still, it's the old Jim Craig thing, in Miracle. Jim, they just hung 9 on you. It's anybody's net now. Same thing. They just hung 5 on you. Say what you want in international football. That's like hanging 9 on you in hockey, and it's got to be better than that. And I have my hot take is I don't know if Poch is the guy to get this done. Okay, sorry.
Well, who is?
I don't know. I don't know.
I
don't know. I don't know who it is, but it's just, I like that's not a hot take. I've extended the hot take beyond. So
that's all right, Evie. Go for it.
So it's just, it's like, okay. And you know what? If he turns it around and they do great, nobody's going to remember 5-2 against Belgium. But
exactly.
But it's Belgium, dude. And if you're playing a good team like that, you got to do better than 5-2 if you want to elevate the game in the United States, like they always say they want to do. So
they've been elevating the game for 40 years ever since I met you.
See? Hey?
I have to disagree.
You got some old guys on the show now. Right?
They've been saying that. I think we rose and we took a step or two back in a big way, honestly. But again, at least this team had ideas. They tried to play. You didn't see us sit in. And yeah, I think we were really missing some players. Now, granted, you're not going to have all your guys, but I think we were missing Tyler Adams. Tim Ream is nowhere near the speed that game requires. Our outside backs were over aggressive, but that's what I liked about it. We went out and we tried to play.
Yeah.
So anyway,
you're right. And okay, last little segment. Hot take on what's the goalkeeping situation in the United States.
Ooh.
That's a head scratcher.
Go ahead,
Really is.
Bone. You're first.
Wow. It's like a revolving door, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's let's make a deal, right? Ding, 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 ding. Turner, you're up. And obviously I didn't think a lot of those goals were his fault. But you gave up 5, like you said, EV, and that there's no asterisk. You gave up 5.
Yeah.
And I really don't think we're as strong as we used to be. I think everyone, would agree with that. We've dropped down. We're trying to get back to how high the bar was, but it's just not there.
What about you? What do you think of the goalkeeping situation in the United States?
I just think it's in flux. I think it's gone downhill in recent years, and like y'all said, it's a revolving door. Who knows who to step in there? Who's going to play? Who's going to step up and play well? I don't know.
Yeah. What about you, Pat?
Well, actually, the boy, listen to me. The young man who Freeze, is that his name?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
he played the last 12 games. To me, he had cemented himself as the number one. Honestly, throwing Turner in there was just, I think, a trial situation. I think Potts was trying it out, and I think he did well. But I think, honestly, he could have had the first one. But other than that, I don't think he had a prayer. And that one save off the Ream handball was incredible, in my opinion. The quick reaction, boom. It only to face a penalty as your reward, but
Yeah.
I mean, I think Turner's set up as a decent number 2, but we clearly don't have a number 1. That's
Yeah. My hot take on the goalkeeping situation with the national team right now is, you guys remember that? You remember the Christmas movie Home Alone, right? And he's home alone and he's going through his brother Buzz's stuff and he's pulling out a Playboy and he's pulling out stuff that his brother's got hidden in his chest, and he pulls out a picture of this middle school girl and he goes, "Buzz, your girlfriend, woof." That's my take on goalkeeping right now in the United States.
You've obviously watched that movie too many times.
Way too many. No. So, without further ado, Greg, I'll turn it over to you.
Boy, I don't know if
with our special guest, Woody Gibson.
I don't know if I can follow that. I mean, holy crap, that was verbatim.
Yeah, you gotta watch it.
Evie, I'm gonna throw it back to you here with Woody. You say you met him 40 years ago. Like, how did you meet him, and what was your relationship with him over the last say 20 years, when you were really, really involved in the game from maybe an NAI standpoint, because that's the foundation of Woody before he went to D2 and then D1, which we'll get to. But
if I'm not mistaken, Woody took over from Ken Chartier, right, Wood?
That's correct. 1978.
Yeah. So 1978. So I probably met Woody first around 1979 or 1980 because I was doing soccer camps after I had finished up in New York. And but I had known Chartier because we were 2 of the only soccer guys maybe in the universe from New Hampshire, right? And so when Sharts was at High Point, I think we did a camp there with Greg Myers and those guys and Hank and those guys. Right. And Chartier kind of hosted it, and I think Woody was the assistant, or was it?
I was Ken's assistant when he came to High Point. Became his assistant in 1975 and did that for 3 years. And when he left, I became the head coach.
Yeah. And Woody has been very involved back in the day in ODP for North Carolina when North Carolina was a good, solid ODP state, and he has been that soccer servant who would do anything to help the game. If you needed a field or if you needed a facility or a university for the weekend to hold either a camp or an ODP thing or something like that, you'd call Woody and say, sure, come on down, and at the same time, it was a great coach, put out wonderful players, put out great programs back in the NAIA when the NAIA was, in 1975. If you played soccer and you were serious about it, you were probably going to an NAIA school, and that changed shortly thereafter as the ACC developed soccer and that kind of stuff. But Woody's always, that solid rock you could count on to help grow the game and help whatever you were doing with soccer. And he's always represented High Point University, as well as it can be, and we'll get into that later on in the broadcast. But I coached with him. I used to run over there and coach his goalkeepers back in the day. And just, great guy, great friend, and have known him for forever. So yeah.
Go back to your comment about when you needed a field or a facility or whatever. That's how I got involved in ODP to begin with. Roland Paiva called me. Roland called me one day back in 1984, I guess, and said, hey, you want to be on the ODP coaching staff? And I said, yeah, sure. He said, that's great, because we need a field in Central North Carolina to train, because both at the time, both he and Joe Pereira were in Eastern North Carolina.
Yeah.
He said, we need to use your field, and if we can use your field for free, then you can be on the staff. Yeah. So that's how I got involved in ODP, and that's why so many things were at High Point over the years, because we had a free field.
Yeah.
Interesting. A little fun fact about Sharks. He recruited me, EV, when he was.
He really?
Yeah.
Oh, did he?
So what did you learn from Sharks? You said that you were his assistant. What things do you remember back then that you picked up? Because as we go through this, people forget. I'm sure that you got your A license, and back then you had to play, and you had to. It wasn't like it was or it is now, of course. So was Sharks helping you through this whole thing? Back then when you first started, or how did that go with him?
Actually, I got into coaching soccer by accident. Just to give you a brief background, I left college after 3 years because I was a disinterested student. I worked with the Carolina Cougars of the ABA for a year. I got drafted. I was in the military 2 years. I came back and worked with the Carolina Cougars for 2 years. They sold the franchise and moved. I went to High Point to finish school in 1974. And then in 75, after I'd graduated and I was working on a master's degree, Ken came in as our head soccer coach, and it was a part-time position at the time. And Jerry Steele, our athletic director, came to me and said, Ken needs an assistant. And I said, I never played soccer and I've never seen a game. I have no idea. That's true. I grew up in Eastern North Carolina, never seen a soccer match. I had no idea what the rules were or anything. He said, that's okay. Ken will take care of the soccer and you'll help him with everything else. So my job was, the vans, the meal money, the field, all those kind of things. So I started out, and I've said this before in other situations, but I'll say it again. The fact that the players embraced me that fall because they knew I didn't know anything, but they accepted me as one of theirs. I'll never forget that. That made me feel like I was part of a program. And about halfway through the season, Ken came to me and handed me a book, and it was about goalkeeping. And he said, "You're a goalkeeping coach. Read the book, and start working with our goalkeepers because they need some training." It's like, okay, I can do that. I can read. So we had 3 goalkeepers. One of them, Joe Ramsbottom, was an all-conference goalkeeper. Then Todd Miller was an all-conference goalkeeper the following year. And Todd actually was from Miami and played with the Miami Toros briefly. Was on the roster or something briefly for a year or two after school. But when we were training, I was training goalkeepers. I'd read the book at night, and the next day we'd go to training and take the goalkeepers down to this end, and they'd do whatever I asked them to. And then I'd say, okay, guys, get some water and take a break. And I'd pick the book up and look through the book and try to figure out what are we doing next. I'm saying you can't. I ain't making this up, guys.
Woody,
Yeah, yes.
I don't know if you'll remember, because I know it's been a long time, but did the book say W
Yes.
with your
Oh, yeah.
handshake?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, no.
It was, but that's how I got started. And then over the next year or two, I got very interested in soccer. And then when Ken left in the summer of '78 to go back to graduate school, Jerry Steele asked me to be this head soccer coach. And I said, Coach, I don't know. I said, I still don't know an awful lot about the game. He said, that's okay. We'll get you an assistant. And so one of our players had just graduated, Mel Mailer. I'm sure
Yeah.
you folks know Mel. Mel had just graduated, and we called him, and he came down and made $1,000 for the season part-time and lived at my house. And he was my assistant, and we were both trying to figure out how to be college soccer coaches. He understood the game certainly better than I did, but that's kind of how I got started. And interesting, we knew we had to have players. So the first fall break in October of '78, we decided to go to Long Island because Mel was from Long Island. And we saw several players up there, but two of them ended up coming to High Point. Pepe Perrone from Center Reach High School in Long Island. Pepe eventually became the first All-American at High Point. And then Ricky Clear, who was a goalkeeper from North Shore up in Long Island. And his high school coach said he's not going to come to High Point. And so anyway, he did and played 4 years, and he was a great player. And so that's kind of how I got started. And then over time, I learned it. And then in 1980, I went to Duke Soccer Camp to start working there. And I think that's where we first met. Was at Duke Soccer Camp. Probably was, yeah.
So Woody, you didn't know anything about soccer or very little, not enough to be confident to be a head coach. You're given the job anyway. This sounds to me like a script maybe for an Apple series or something like that, because it's like I'm thinking Ted Lasso as you're
Ted Lasso, yeah.
Yeah, Ted Lasso, yeah.
Woody Lasso.
Woody Lasso.
50 years before its time, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So so over time, I just started learning, and then in 1970, the summer of '79. Mel and I went to SIU Edwardsville to get a C license. And I had very, very little skill, almost no technical skill. But because I had a master's degree, I was able to skip all the lower level license and start at the C level. And when I got there, I just studied and just like I prepare for anything. And I'm sure they gave me a pass on a lot of the technical stuff because I couldn't juggle a ball or dribble it more than 2 or 3 steps or shoot it right. But anyway, I passed the C license. The next summer, we went to South Carolina and at the university and got a B license. And again, I had, I guess, the same thing. They just gave me a pass on a lot of the technical stuff, but I guess I did everything else well. And then I got a lucky break. The next year, I went to Virginia Wesleyan, and Gordon Bradley was my coach for the A license. Wow. And that was the first time that they had gone from a 1-year A license to a 2-year A license. So I went to Virginia Wesleyan 2 summers for that, and Gordon Bradley was there both times. But I learned an awful lot from him. And in the meantime, I was going to Duke Soccer Camp, and I was in the room with a lot of smart people, professional players, coaches, college coaches, and just listened to them, talk, just absorbed all I could. And going back a little bit, 1978, when I first took the job at High Point, that's when videotape recorders were just first coming out. And I was talking to my brother one day. We were just chatting, and he told me about this new invention where you could record TV programs. So I bought my first videotape recorder. It was a Sony. It was about the size of a small suitcase, and it cost $1,200, which was about half my salary at the time. But I used it to record Soccer Made in Germany. The 1-hour shows on Saturday afternoons. I recorded all of those, And I watched those over and over and over again and listened to the commentary and paused it and backed up and watched it again. And I learned a lot that way. I didn't learn to speak German, but I learned how Germans play soccer. So that was kind of how I learned. I'm self-taught pretty much, which would never happen in today's world, of course. But that's kind of how it started and I got into recruiting pretty well because I knew that the better players I had, the better coach I was going to be. And so my first couple of years, my first season, we were not very good. The second season, we had a winning record. And then my third, fourth, and fifth season, we were undefeated in the Carolinas Conference, won 3 straight conference championships. And I just had gotten out and recruited and found some players, and they came to High Point.
Yeah, so let's, Evie, so, we always have a lot of firsts on this program, as you and I know, that we accidentally discover, of course. So first, Woody, thank you for your service, with the Vietnam War. More importantly, Evie, and I did not know this at all, he was honored with the Order of the Longleaf Pine Award. And most people are going to go, what the hell is that? Well, let me blow you away. It's North Carolina's highest civilian honor for contributions to the state. So we've never, ever had anyone like that. He's also not 1, not 2, not 3, 4. He's in 4 Hall of Fames.
Yeah.
Which
Wow.
is remarkable, right? The NAIA Hall of Fame, the Guilford College Hall of Fame, of course, High Point Athletic Hall of Fame, and the North Carolina Hall of Fame.
Yep.
So
Yep.
for someone who, didn't play and really didn't know what the hell he's doing, obviously he's been very successful. He's won over 200 games.
Wow.
That says a lot right there on the men's side. And again, we've never had a current or former athletic director on, and obviously Woody's going to talk to us about all these transitions, from NAI to D2 to D1. And, he was there, during the D1 process. So we've got a lot, to do and get to. Plus, he also started the women's program there.
Yeah.
And he did that for 3 seasons. The first year was a little struggle, but after that, got it on the track. Plus, he was the golf coach.
That's right.
A lot of people did not know, and he's got them, the golf team, into the NAI tournament, and he's got the men in the NAI tournament. So pretty remarkable first here, of course, only on 3 Old Goalies. So
You heard it here first, folks.
And I was also a faculty member teaching 3 or 4 classes
I
this
never got to
semester.
that. I mean,
Okay.
SID, professor, coach, AD. I think Evie said it. You've covered it all. We're going to get into that. I just, wondered first, what did that award mean to you? I mean, did you even know about this award? I mean, the Order of the Longleaf Pine Award. I mean, it sounds like something, some comedy skit, but I read about it, and I'd love to hear, what you think of, getting that honor meant to you.
Well, it was, as you know, it was established in the early 1960s by the governor's office, and in order to recognize outstanding service to your community in the state of North Carolina. And there are quite a few very significant celebrities that are members of this. Andy Griffith is in it. It's got an award. Michael Jordan's got an award. Maya Angelou's got an award. The astronauts who walked on the moon, and there's on and on.
Damn.
When I first heard that I had been nominated, I first found out last August that I'd been nominated, and the process takes we got the letters of recommendation. One of my former players, Paul Lassard, who was a co-captain of my very first soccer team. Paul is a very prominent person in High Point. He's the president of the High Point Community Foundation and has been for 28, 29 years. And so Paul was the one who kind of organized all the paperwork. And we got letters of recommendation from several people, several prominent people, and sent those in with all the other information. And it had to go through several steps and several committees, I understand, for approval. But I got the word in mid-November that it had officially been approved. And so then we started working with Paul, we started putting together a presentation and a reception, and we decided let's just wait until January because of Thanksgiving, Christmas, holidays, and so forth. And we selected January 26th, and we had ice and 15 inches of snow. So we postponed it, and we just actually had the ceremony about 2 weeks ago. And when I first found out about it, I was just overwhelmed. I had no idea that I would qualify for something like that. I had no idea that I would even be considered. But it's certainly the greatest honor I've gotten in my life, for sure.
Yeah, congratulations.
Wow,
Yeah.
congratulations.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. So Woody, take us through the NAI. 14 seasons you were in it. About 20 years you were in it, 14 seasons you qualified for the tournament. And back then it was still is brutal. But as Evie said, a lot of the better players were playing in that because soccer had not really taken a stronghold over the country, at the D1 level. So, share some stories of, playing in the NAI tournament that you remember. Obviously you were, as you alluded to, coach of the year, 7 times. So you had very, very good teams, and, take us through some of the journeys of those seasons, the post seasons, and, how you did or why you didn't get to the, final game.
Well, in 1975, the Carolinas Conference decided to award scholarships in all sports. And they gave 7.5 to men's basketball, 5 to women's basketball, 3 to baseball, and all other sports got 2 scholarships, regardless of the roster size. So I had Ken had 2 scholarships starting in 75 for 3 years, and I had 2 scholarships going forward. And we just tried to utilize the scholarship money as much as we could to recruit players and combine it with financial aid, academic scholarships, that type of thing. And just a matter of recruiting. And so when we got to 1980 and we had put together a pretty good team, one story that I'll tell you, Mike Brandell was a outstanding freshman on the 1980 team. He was our leading scorer with 13 goals. He was the freshman of the year, all conference, all district, that type of thing, from Northern New Jersey. This is how we recruited him. Mel and I went to the New Jersey All-State banquet, sat at the table with a sign that said High Point, and sat there. And the only people who sat down and talked to us were Mike Brandell and his mom and dad. And so we talked about High Point and stayed in touch with him over time. Of course, we had to stay in touch through telephones back then. And he came to High Point and was a great player. He was a typical New Jersey asshole, but he was a great player. You said it was okay to cuss, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
No. But Mike is then he wasn't going to come back for his sophomore year, and I drove up to New Jersey and talked him into it and drove him back down here. And he had a great sophomore year, but then academically he wasn't into it, and he decided to leave. So to finish the story about Greg, about Mike Brandell, 4 years later, on a Saturday in May when High Point was getting ready to have its graduation, my office phone rang and I answered it. He said, "Hey, Coach, this is Mike Brandell." I said, "How you doing?" It's the first time we've talked in 4 years. He said, "I wanted to call and tell you I'm graduating from college today. I want to thank you for everything you did for me because now I understand a little bit better." And I always remember that, and I really appreciate that. And Mike has stayed in touch over the years. He's a father and now a grandfather. He's retired. He's just a wonderful guy now. So that's how recruiting went. We went to the banquet, and they were the only people that talked to us. And he came here and turned out to be a very good player for a couple of years. Another recruiting story. Chris Honhold was a sweeper for us. He was from Peru. He was actually a junior Davis Cup player in Peru in tennis, and he came to High Point to play tennis. And because his school year, he finished in December, so he came here in January. He came to me after the tennis season in the spring and asked if he could play soccer. And I said, "Certainly, we'll be glad to have you." And so to make a long story short, he became a most valuable player in the conference and most valuable player in the district twice. Played sweeper for us for 3 years, and was an outstanding player. But there was no recruiting involved. He was already there. But that's how lucky I've been over the years with things like that. We get into district, we get into conference. Back then, the Carolinas Conference did not have a tournament. The first tournament the conference had was 1989. And we beat Belmont Abbey 3-0, beat Robbie 3-0 in that championship game. In case he's listening.
We'll make sure.
Yeah. So up until then, it was a regular season champion, and then we qualified for the district playoffs. And each year we got to the championship game, and each year, those first 3 years, we ran into Atlantic Christian. It's now Barton College. The first year we lost in a shootout, the old NASL shootout from 35 yards. We lost in that by one goal. The next year we lost 1-0, and the next year we lost 2-1, and we just couldn't get over that hump. So we got shut out of those of advancing beyond those 3 years, and then over the next few years we continued to play, and we got into the area playoffs a couple of times and won some games, but never got to the final NAI national tournament level. But we did win some more conference championships, and throughout the whole time we had 2 scholarships. And so when we got to the late 80s or mid 80s, I guess, I went to Canada, to Toronto to watch the Robbie Cup. And I went, and one of my former players lived there. So we went over to watch some of the older guys, the Jamaican guys, play on a Sunday morning. And after the match, a player walked up to me. He was about 5'8" and had big, thick glasses. It was freckles, reddish hair, weighed about 120 pounds, and said he wanted to come to the United States to play soccer. And I said, okay. And we talked a little bit, and I stayed in touch with him. And his name was Dexter Gilmore. And EV, you probably remember him.
Yeah.
He turned into a 2-time All-American. He was the most valuable player in the Senior Bowl his senior year, NAI Senior Bowl. But he recruited us. I never saw him play until he got here. Gave him $1,000 to come to High Point and for scholarship money. And it's 5 minutes into the first training session, I'm like, holy cow, this guy's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was a 4-year starter. But again, that's how lucky I've been over the years. I'm at Duke soccer camp, talking to the 4 or 5 Irish coaches who were there from Northern Ireland. We're at Satisfactions having pizza and beer one night. Well, we did it many nights, but this was one particular night. And I just made a comment. I said, you know anybody in Northern Ireland who might want to come over here and play? And John McKay spoke up and said, yeah, I have a student that I know at my high school where I teach. He's a schoolboy player from Northern Ireland. I think he might be interested. And so sight unseen, over the next year, I write him letters and we write back and forth. And Thomas Ingram comes to High Point. And he turned into a 4-year starter and a 3-time All-American, and he played in the Senior Bowl game. And so, I just got very lucky in many respects recruiting like that. A couple of years later, I had worked at Duke soccer camp for quite a few years. And there was a player named Adam Duff who was with my group for 1 year when he's going to do his junior year in high school. And we got along real well. And the next year, John Rennie put him back in my group again so that he and I could continue to get along, talk. And so I was recruiting Adam from Colorado, and he wanted to go to Duke. And John and Adam is the one who told me this, but he said John Rennie told him, Adam, you're a very good student, but you're not quite good enough to get into Duke. You're a very good player, but you're not quite good enough to get into to get a scholarship or for us to get a waiver. He says you need to go to High Point and play for Woody. So that's how Adam Duff got here. And he turned out, he was an All-American. He played the Senior Bowl game and still, I think, still holds a couple of records, soccer records, like most assists in a season, that type of thing. So, I mean, I've just been very fortunate over the years that things have always worked out well for me. EV, you certainly remember Eves Fisher, our goalkeeper.
Yep.
And Eves was a character. Well, he came here because Doug Brandon was his high school teammate, and Doug was here. That's why Eves came to school here. And became a great goalkeeper.
Yeah.
And you had a lot to do with that, EV, because you trained him real well. So, I mean, that's kind of how I develop teams. And I find guys who would come here who were good high school players. We couldn't always get great players because of the scholarship limitations, but we got good players, and things kind of fit together, and that's kind of how we did it. We did end up winning the first Carolinas Conference postseason tournament, and that was the year that Robbie knocked us out, and he went out to the NAIA Nationals. He upset West Virginia Wesleyan in their area tournament, and went out to New Mexico in the NAIA National Tournament. And I was on the member of the games committee at that time, so I was at that tournament and got to watch them play. They played very well out there. They could have easily advanced in that tournament.
Yeah, Woody, talk about the NAIA transition from NAIA to D2. Why did High Point at that time want to do it? And, what were your memories of, like, was there a lot of resistance? Like, hey, we really got to step this up. Do we have the money, right? Because that's a whole nother band of resources. So take us through that little journey before we take it, before you take us to D1 here.
Well, Division II came up in 1992. The entire conference was going to move to Division II, and it was a large part of it was because of money. As you know, the NAIA did not reimburse a lot of programs for going to national tournaments. They reimbursed football teams and basketball teams, and that's about it. The NCAA reimbursed and paid for everything pretty much. So that was a driving force to go to Division II. So the entire Carolinas Conference moved to Division II. It was supposed to be a 2-year transition. It took us 3 years because one school in the conference wasn't quite ready. So in 1995, we officially became a Division II school. But already there was discussion about High Point moving to Division I. And so the decision was made in and going back to Division II, we're still playing the same teams. We're still playing the same schedule. We still have the same 2 scholarships.
Wow.
But we played through that. And so 1997 was my last year of coaching, the fall of 97. And in January of that year, the Carolinas Conference presidents asked our president, because there had been a lot of discussion about High Point moving to Division I. They asked our president, what's High Point going to do? If you want to leave, leave. If you want to stay, stay. But we just need to know. And so he wrote them a letter in January of 1997 and said, we're going to stay in the Carolinas Conference. Okay, so that gave the coaches an idea about how to recruit and so forth. And then in late April, there was a meeting with the Big South commissioner and some other people in the president's office. And 3 days after that, roughly the last week in April, a member of the Booster Club came into the athletic center, and I just happened to run into him, and he said, "We're going Division I." I said, "Really?" I said, that's the first I've heard it. He says, "No, we just decided we're going Division I." So very quickly, everybody in the Carolinas Conference dropped us from schedules, but for the most part. We all had to, everybody in the athletic department had to scramble to put together a schedule. We had to change our recruiting focus. I had two players who were coming in, one from Pennsylvania, one from Canada, who were very good players, that both qualified under Division II rules eligibility as freshmen, but not Division I. Now, in both cases, they were like 10 points short on the SAT score. I mean, it was very, very close. So I called both of them in early May and said, "All right, this is what's happening. You can come to High Point and sit out for a year. You can go somewhere else, or you can take the SAT over again, because there was one more test date in June for high school students." They both took the SAT over again. They both made a much better score, and they both were eligible, and they both came to school here. And they were very good players. And so, again, that's how lucky I was with a lot of this. Then in the fall of 1997, we had a kind of everybody in Division I called us because they wanted to play us.
Yeah, I was going to say, what was I need to hijack this, right? So your new program, the Wolves are coming out, right? Because everyone, like you just said, wants to play you and beat you because they know you're stepping up. Obviously, that. What is the feeling like? Everybody wants to play me to beat my ass, or at least think they can. And share with us, you're at 2 scholarships. You're still at 2 scholarships. What do you jump to, if you even jump now, what is the school say about funding?
We went all the way to 3 scholarships that year. and seriously, we had 3 scholarships. And so we went to 3 scholarships. And the first part of the season, we played in a tournament with Duke and NC State. We got beaten both games. In the NC State game, we got beat pretty badly. In the Duke game, and again, I've got a lot of younger players. I'm trying out things early in the year, so we played low pressure and let them possess the ball and that type of thing. We lost 2-0. It looks good on paper, but we never really had a chance to score it. But that was the way we had to learn how to play. And then we win a game against somebody, and then we lost to Appalachian. We lost to UNC Wilmington. So we were anyway at the end of at the end of September, we were 3-6. But our schedule got easier. We're now playing more Division II NAIA schools than we were in the first half of the season. And we had a homecoming game against Erskine. We were much better than them, and we were down 1-0 at the half. Our guys were playing tentatively. We'd been beaten up by the Division I schools for a month, and at halftime we had a meeting, and I rearranged some things in the locker room, and ended up the metal chairs with the little things on the bottom that balance them. Okay, well, one of those was hanging in the wall when I left. I'll just leave it at that. And so we go back out. Yeah. So yeah, well, you got to do what you got to do. Yeah. And so we came back out and we scored again and we scored again. Anyway, we ended up winning 6-1, and you could just see the confidence level growing. Well, we didn't lose again. We were undefeated the rest of the year, and had a great October. And when it was all over, that was the last regular season game. We were finished because we're no longer in the Carolinas Conference. We're not in the Big South Conference yet because we're not officially Division I, so we can't go anywhere. So the players bought several kegs and had a 4-day party.
4-day party.
That's what we do. That's what players do, right?
Yeah, right.
And so that was my last actual season of coaching, but it ended on a high note. And then in March of 1998, I got a call to come see the president. And,
I want to interject this evening.
Yeah, go ahead. Okay.
Because he's about to talk about the AD job, and you got to remember he has no administration experience.
That's correct.
Right? I mean, 0. I mean, this would not fly today.
All right. That hasn't stopped him yet, so why should it matter now?
That's an interview. Yeah. So he's about to uncork to us. He's going to get a phone call from, and go down the story path of how he became the AD, which I think is going to be great to listen to. So take it from here, Woody.
But like you said, he doesn't have any administrative experience, but he knows where all the skeletons are buried. So put Woody in.
and unlike goalkeeping, there was no book to read to be an AD. I got goalkeeping with the book, but the president called me late in March and just said that he and Jerry Steele was our AD and basketball coach, had been for over 25 years. And as we were making the transition, they decided that he didn't need to be doing both jobs. And our president gave him the choice, which one do you want? And Coach Steele picked basketball, which was the right choice for him. It's a longtime basketball coach. And so that's when I was asked to be the athletic director. And I went home. I asked the president if I could sleep on it one night. He said, certainly. And I went home and I thought about it. Part of it was all these people who I was working with. Now I'm going to be their boss. How's that going to work? Secondly, I know we've got a long road to go to get this done and become a good Division I, a solid Division I program. Can we do it? Because I didn't think that High Point had the financial resources at the time to be taking this step. I thought it was the right thing for us to do as a school, but were we prepared to do it? So, but it came down to this. It's like everything I'd done there. I knew I could work hard and put in the hours and outwork people, and I just figured let's give it a try. The worst that happens is nobody else knows what an AD does. If I screw it up, nobody's going to know the difference. So
what are some of the stories here? Because you got to do scheduling. You got to, I'm sure, do a lot of fundraising, which you've never done, on a day-to-day basis. And like you mentioned, you're talking to coaches who you were at the same level, and now the boss. So any funny stories of, the first maybe 2 years as you go down this path? I mean, you were there 4 years, which is a long time for an AD, especially in a startup program.
Yeah, I was AD for 10 years altogether. And when we first started, it was awkward, to be honest. And I knew that we had to start from scratch. And so I started reading the manual, the Division I manual, and the checklist for being a Division I program. And the first thing I did the summer of 1998, I worked on an athletic yearbook. We didn't have anything like that, but we needed one. And I worked on some other kinds of manuals, and I worked with our compliance guy to get us switched over from Division II paperwork to Division I paperwork. And so we just started trying to put in place, one block at a time, one step at a time, to put in the foundation of a Division I program. We had that was a 2-year transition. Now, I had missed the first year. I was coaching, so I started in the spring of 98. We had one year to get everything in place in order to get certified as a Division I athletic program. And so I had a lot of meetings that year. I met with a lot of faculty members, staff members, admissions, financial aid, the vice president for financial affairs, the academic dean. I had meetings after meetings after meetings. But we got it together. And then in August of 99, we send all of our paperwork into the NCAA, and we're certified as a Division I program. It started there. No matter when you're certified, their standard starting age is September 1st. So as of September 1st of 99, we became a Division I athletic program. And it was a challenge, because there were some coaches that didn't accept me being the athletic director very easily. There was 2 coaches who decided to retire, and they were close to retiring, but they decided to retire and become faculty members and just teach. So one of the things that High Point had to do was to separate teaching and coaching as we move forward, because you don't want to combine the two. So there was an expense right there that I'm not sure that they had really considered. I had a couple of meetings with the president, and had met with the media. And one of his big things was, well, the newspapers aren't putting our scores in the paper. So that's something I have to work on. That falls back on my sports information time. By the way, we didn't have a sports information director the first 2 years. It was a part-time position for somebody else, for our compliance guy, to be honest. We finally hired an SID in 2000. And he lasted 6 months, and then we hired another guy, and he lasted about 6 months, and then we hired another guy who was very good. So it took a couple of years to kind of get that in place. In the meantime, I'm meeting with the vice presidents, the president, every semester, trying to increase scholarships, operating budgets, staffing, salaries, and get facilities addressed. I mean, that's an awful lot at one time. And so I would meet with the coaches, and I'd say, all right, give me your list of priorities. And that list, give me those 5 things. What do you think is most important? And I'd collect all their information. I'd see what they say. And of course, it was a varied list, but the first couple of times, scholarships, because they knew they had to have players. So I focused my attention on trying to get us additional scholarship aid. And we added scholarships very slowly in those first few years. We'd add a half here, a half there. I would be given 5 scholarships for the next year, and and I was left up to me, figure out how you want to divide them up. So that was very slow going. It took about 4 or 5 years and doing this and working on trying to get budgets increased and trying to get part-time assistant coaches and so forth. But we finally got to the point. I would measure us by the Big South information that the commissioner would put together every year, and we were dead last in everything when we first started. And then over the next 4 to 5 years, we finally got to we were 4th in operating budget in the conference, which I was tickled to death with. We actually were not last in scholarships. We were next to last, but that's an improvement. We were still short of staffing, but we convinced enough people to volunteer and to help out part-time and that type of thing that we got it done. Facilities was a whole nother thing. I talked about facilities a lot, and that we never really were able to do anything there. And so just over time, we just kind of put things together and just kind of kept adding and adding, and we got a little bit better and a little bit better. And our men's tennis team won our first conference championship in the spring of 2003. And women's soccer won the first teams championship, I guess, in the fall of 2003. Now, I'll tell you this story. We finished sixth in the regular season. The women did 6 out of 8, and we played 3 conference tournament games and didn't score a goal, but we won 3 penalty kick shootouts. And that's how we won the conference championship. So now everybody's excited. We're going to be in the NCAA tournament, and you know where they sent us. They sent us to Chapel Hill. And one of the players actually came to me a couple of days before they went to Chapel Hill and said, "Do you think it'll be all right if we ask for their autographs?" And I said, "Wait till after the match, okay, please." Okay. So it was, if I recall, it was 8-0 at the half. They scored another goal in the second half. Anson pretty much pulled people back. We got 2 shots off, both from about 60 yards out. So we got neither one on goal, but we got 2 shots off. So that was our first experience in the NCAA tournament and with the women's soccer team. They've obviously gotten better over the years. They've won several conference championships. Our men's program is outstanding now. And then in 2007, I'd been an AD for almost 10 years, and I was totally worn out, to be honest. Fundraising, putting this together, dealing with everything we had to deal with. And so I met with the president. By then, Nito Quabain was the incoming new president, and he was going to take over January of 2005. He came in, and he'd been there a couple of years. And so I met with him, and we just talked about, could I go back to teaching classes full time? Because by then I'd earned a doctorate in the early 90s also. So by then I was more qualified, I guess, to teach than I had been earlier. And so by mutual agreement, I stepped down as an athletic director. The idea was that I submitted my resignation December of 2007. And we thought, well, I will continue until they hire somebody. And so I continued into January and early February, but they hired somebody pretty quickly who took over February 1st. So I had been given 1 class to teach for the spring semester. So I ended up in February through the rest of the year teaching 1 class. I had a great gig that year. And so that's how that transition happened. And then over time, Nito Quabain has raised money, changed the complexion of High Point University completely, has put in a lot of money into facilities and so forth. But going back to when he first got there, he wasn't even president yet. In December of 2004, we met on the soccer field at 10 o'clock on a rainy, windy, cold December morning. And he said, "All right, what do you need out here in the way of facilities?" And right away, we need a baseball stadium. We need a facility to house offices and locker rooms and weight room and study hall, that type of thing. And we need a soccer and track facility. He said, okay. And so that was December of 2004. You probably know how slowly colleges build things to raise money. In May of 2007, 2.5 years later, we dedicated this Jerry and Kitty Steele Athletic Center with the offices, locker rooms, etc. In August of 2007, we dedicated the Dick Vert and track and soccer stadium. And in April of 2008, the baseball stadium was dedicated. So in 2.5 to 3 years, he put together the money and built those stadiums. And that's what we have now. They're wonderful facilities.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about when you were the AD. We hear these money games, and they're usually for football, not in your case there, but basketball. You're going to play at Duke. You're going to get a guaranteed money. Were all these ACC schools just like, hey, Woody, come on, man, this is going to be some easy money for you. And you're able to just fundraise that way. Did that happen, or did that happen, or did it not exist back then?
Well, we actually, yes, it did. The NCAA, one of the Division I rules is you have to play X number of Division I opponents, and so the NCAA had put in a rule a few years before we made the transition that said if you're in a transition year and you're the second year of your transition, then you count as a Division I game for your opponent, although you're still not Division I. So we got an offer to go to Utah when Rick Majerus was the coach. This is the year after Kentucky beat them in the national championship game. And so we got a $40,000 guarantee to go to Utah to play. And so that was our first guarantee game. And we lost about 25 or so. But Coach Steele told me the conversation between he and Rick Majerus, he said, Coach Majerus said, we're not going to embarrass you. We're not going to press you. We're not going to do anything different. We're going to play the way we play, and it's up to you to keep up, which you got to like that. And so, but they were coming off a runner-up in the national tournament, had a lot of the same players. And so that was the one guarantee game we played that year for $40,000. So and I had told the president, the vice president, and so forth about these guarantee games, but they really didn't get it. They didn't. But then when they got the $40,000 check, they said, "Oh, okay, we can make money." Okay. So the next year, I got to Coach Steele. I said, "Coach, you got to raise $200,000 this time." And so he ended up getting a series of games, 4 games on the West Coast. We played Nevada, Las Vegas. We played San Diego State. We played 2 of the University of California programs. I don't remember exactly. Riverside and somebody else. And so we got our we lost all 4 games, but we got our $200,000. And after that, the school said, well, can we get more? So Coach Steele got in touch with Tubby Smith, who was coaching at Kentucky. And Tubby is a graduate of High Point. He played for Coach Steele 1 year. Tubby's senior year was Coach Steele's first year as coach there. So have a long relationship. And so we scheduled a game at Kentucky with Tubby. And Tubby normally, he said their normal guarantee was $50,000. He gave us $75,000 to help us out, which we appreciated. And we went back and played another game or 2 over the years while he was still there and got some money out of it. In fact, the first year we went out, when he gave us the $75,000 with 3 minutes to go in the game, they have a 4-point lead and we have the ball. And Tubby looks over at Coach Steele like, "What are you doing to me? If you win this game, I'm gonna get fired." But fortunately, the Kentucky shot 10 free throws in the last couple of minutes, and we didn't, and they ended up winning easily. So, but Tubby helped us out quite a bit, and so that's kind of how we got started, how we started fundraising through athletics. And then our booster club, the Panther Club, was fundraising through them. And I was meeting with people to fundraise also. But it was slow going because we were just starting out. This is a whole new idea in the city of High Point. And it was difficult to do, to be honest. Then when Nito Quabain came in as the president, he's an incredible fundraiser. And so for his first couple of years there, I didn't have to raise as much money for athletics. He was raising it for the facilities and so forth. And so that's kind of how we got started. It was a challenge. It was a lot of sleepless nights. And when I stepped down in February 1st of 2008, I was very relieved, to be honest. I was glad I was done. I was burnt out. And so then I ended up just teaching there until 2012 when I retired.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned the men's program. Obviously, the women's program's done well, but not like Zach Haynes has been on fire.
Yes.
In my opinion, the last several years, hasn't had a losing record there, I believe. Always competing for the championship of the conference, going into the NCAA. He's had a phenomenal year this year. How hard is it, for a school like that to retain him? with the restraints that they have. I mean, I don't know if you know this, EV. Pat, you don't know this either, I'm assuming. I mean, this is a school that has a steakhouse on campus. I don't know if you guys know this.
Didn't know that.
A steakhouse, movie theaters.
If I'd known that, I'd still be coaching goalkeepers there.
I mean, ice cream trucks, arcade. They have an arcade. I mean, they have really, as Woody said, poured a ton of money into this stuff. It's almost like a luxurious, apartment complex with everything there. So, and Aaron hasn't been there as long, but he's had some success too. But, what type of players obviously some kids don't want to be in that environment, Woody, right? And so you've probably talked to both coaches. How are they, especially with the portal and the NIL, how are they managing today's environment?
They both are managing. Well, Zach is managing it very well. I think it took Aaron a year or two to adapt to it. Aaron was hired literally 2 weeks before his season began 4 years ago. And so that put him in a bit of a bind. So I just kind of discount whatever happened his first year there. But Zach has handled it very well. In the Big South Conference, High Point has got more resources than anybody else. I don't know what people use for NIL everywhere else in the conference. I know that in certain sports like men's basketball, we have more than the rest of the conference. And so I don't know if we're giving NIL money to soccer players or not. I don't think so, actually. But Zach has identified players who want to come and play for him and be in that environment and go to school at High Point. Dr. Quabane's whole approach, when he started there in January of 2005, we had 1,800 students. Now we've got 6,500 students. That's tremendous growth over a 20-year period. Yeah. And so, and people see all the luxury things that he's done. And as you might have seen during the basketball tournament, High Point promotes itself as a life skills university. And so that's part of the idea behind the steakhouse is students going there and learning how to go to a 4-star restaurant, steakhouse, and which fork to use and when to put salt and pepper on your food and how to order a drink. I mean, this is what it's for. It's a teaching environment in Nito's mind. And I've been to the steakhouse several times. It's fabulous. It's really good. They've got other things on campus that help students learn how to deal with the work environment once they get out of college. How do you go about meeting people and interviewing for jobs? How do you do this? How do you do that? So that's what he's built this on, particularly over the last decade or so. And when Zach first came, I think Zach's been there 7 years. He inherited a pretty good team, but over the last 5 years, he's been exceptional. And obviously this year was the height of the best season he's had. Ranked as high as 5th in the country and got to the Sweet 16 before we lost to Georgetown. Ironically, our first regular season match was at High Point against Georgetown. We won 2-1.
Right.
A couple of weeks later, our regular season match was at West Virginia, and so that was actually our first two of our first opponents in the NCAA tournament. And so we beat West Virginia at our place in the tournament game. They had to go to Georgetown, and we got beat 2-1. But he identifies good players. He's got a good coaching staff. The school sells itself to a segment of student athletes who want to go to school there. And they come there and they see all the benefits and all the things that all the advantages they have there as a student. In addition to that, as I mentioned earlier, High Point's got more resources than the rest of the Big South. And so they see an opportunity to play in a dominant program, win championships, go to the NCAAs, and have that opportunity at High Point where they might not have it somewhere else.
Yeah.
Well, they both, and Aaron did a good job this year as well. They could have easily packed it in. They lost a lot early in the year. They couldn't score. They lost like 8 straight games to start the year. And then they started scoring. They turned it around. Then they win 8 in a row, and they didn't win the conference championship. And so, and he had 18 or 20 freshmen on the team this year. And so I think they're going to the women are going to have a very good year next year. I know Zach is going to have a great year next year. And we talk about how do you retain coaches like that? Zach was approached and made a significant offer by another Division I program at the end of the year, and we thought we were going to lose him. And our athletic director, Dan Hauser, who does a phenomenal job, but Dan met with Dr. Cobain and they got it worked out. And Zach's still there, and he signed a 5-year contract, or 5-year extension, I should say. So, but we came close to losing him this year. But Zach is from High Point. He went to high school at Southwest Guilford High School. His wife is from there. Their families are still there. I mean, this is where he wants to be. So we were not. I don't think we were able to match the amount of money he was going to make somewhere else. But he took a discount to stay at home. But he's got a pretty good raise, I think.
I was actually on the campus.
Go ahead, Pat.
I was on the campus a month ago.
Were you?
Yeah. Went there for they did an ID camp, the men's side.
Right.
And I brought a few keepers, and I know Tony Anderson, who is Stan's boy, by the way. And yeah, I had an RV, Woody. You'll appreciate this. I drive through the gates in my RV, and of course, it's a college campus, and parking on college campuses now is not the easiest thing to do.
That's
so
right.
I ended up parking at what I got to think is like a landmark at this university. There's this rock by the baseball team, baseball field. That's just a psychedelic, kaleidoscope of colors, right?
That rock has been there for years, and every year it gets painted.
So I parked right next to that rock in my RV. I went down that hill, backed in, and was like, well, it looks like I'm going to be safe here for the day. And it's beautiful campus.
Yes, it is.
Bricked, nice brick sidewalks, and really nice. Really nice.
And one of the first things he started putting in was water fountains. He likes movement. He likes things to be moving. So
where was that?
Water fountains everywhere.
Yeah.
And of course, over time, as you know, and ZB knows, certainly the campus is landlocked. It was surrounded by neighborhoods. Yeah. And so painstakingly, they bought one house at a time over years to be able to expand the campus.
Wow.
And it's incredible what he's done. It's amazing what he's accomplished there, because I don't think anybody else in the country has ever done it, and probably will never do it. I don't think you can replicate what he's done there.
Yeah. Pat, how did your kids do at the ID camp?
Oh, they did fine. Young kids, 8th grade, 9th grade, one 12th grader actually that's already committed to go to academy, but an overseas academy. But I said, go do it for the experience, right? But yeah, they did fine. It was good, well attended too. There was like 75, 80 kids there. And they ran it pretty nice one day. Did a good job.
Yeah,
they do a good job there, and they just finished playing the Carolina Cup in High Point at the Carolina Core is the MLS team. That's where they play at their stadium, and they do it as a fundraiser for the Holden Trent Scholarship. Holden Trent was a goalkeeper at High Point, was All-American, was a first-round draft pick by Philadelphia.
Tragic.
Tragically passed away 18 months later. So they've done this tournament for the last couple of years to raise money. And, the outcome of matches doesn't matter because of what you're doing it for. But UNC and High Point played 0-0 final yesterday and then went to PKs, and North Carolina won 4-2. Okay, but that's a nice thing they do to help recognize and Holden Trent.
Yeah. All right, EV, we're going to switch it back to you, to headquarters, if you want to add something to this.
Well,
obviously, a lot of great stories, a lot of great, of course, the highest civilian honor won. I mean, how do you top that, right? So,
well, you know what? So I'm sitting here listening, and not only has he won the North Carolina Legion of the Longleaf Pine Award, which, I had not heard of until Roland Paiva texted me and said he was just over at High Point and Woody got the award. And that's so I got in touch with Woody. I said, we got to, first of all, you told him congratulations, but then I said, we got to get you on the podcast. Because Woody is that, and I'm sure that some schools have this, probably not all, probably not many, I'm sorry, but a guy who has been there over decades and seen the changes and been part of the changes, not just, not just a teacher who's watched, the university get better and better, but he's been instrumental in changing changing everything about that university, changing everything about that athletic department, changing everything about the soccer programs, but most importantly, as I said in my text to him, changing and helping the lives of young people while he's been doing it. And, and I just found out he's a doctor. So,
yeah, right. Yeah.
I mean, like, I think we've only had one other doctor on the podcast, so, I mean, next thing would he be out there doing surgery on somebody? So you're good to go. You got the whole ball of wax. So, but I greatly appreciate, well, first of all, I greatly appreciate him being on so we could catch up, but greatly appreciate everything he's done, certainly for the game in the United States, because, as we've said many times, the whole birthright of this podcast, Bone, was stories like this, right? That maybe people haven't heard of certain things, and maybe people haven't heard of certain coaches or players or whatever. This is what this podcast is all about, is sharing that with people. So, and there's a lot of people across the country who have done what he has done. He's been loyal to an institution and helped it grow and grow and grow, and not just, as I said, not just grow the institution, not just grow the game, not just grow the soccer programs, but help young people in their progression in life. And I don't know what much more you'd want.
Not much more. Pat, any ending comments? This is your first time, finding out about some of this,
I do. Woody, you kept using the phrase, and I got lucky. You said that quite a bit in this podcast. And excuse me, I'm one of these metaphorical guys, but you know what? You kept catching fish because you kept putting your fucking line in the water. It sounds like to me. And so that's what I got out of this. It's like, you're just out there and, you tell a good story. You strike me as a very affable fellow, and you're talking about whatever your cause is very, persuasively, eloquently. And it's like, yeah, I got a kid from Ireland. He'll come play for you. Yeah, coach. Hey, this guy Woody was talking about, boom. And so shit happens just because you're out there getting after it. And, fantastic stories. I was glad to hear it.
Thank you. I was asked to make some remarks at the Order of the Longleaf Pine ceremony, and you just said it so much more eloquently than I could have. So I'm glad you appreciate what you just said.
By the way,
I wish I'd have thought about throwing my fucking line in the water.
You just kept throwing your line in the water. It's like, hey, buddy, there's no fish there. Well, let's see, throw it out there. But I think that sounds like a secret society to me more than a Hall of Fame.
Wow,
that's awesome.
That's top class. That's top class individuals in that society.
Yeah, there's some good people in there, and again, I was overwhelmed when I found out about it. I'm very honored to be in it, and it is easily the highest honor I've ever received in my life. So I certainly appreciate it, everybody. And one of the things I said in my remarks, and I've said it other places, my family and my friends and people I've known over the years, they are my foundation. Because of all of those people, they are the ones who have allowed me to do a lot of the things I've done and accomplish some of the things I've done. It certainly wasn't me by myself. I could never have done this by myself. It was with the support and the care and love of other people that helped me get there.
Super.
Well said. Thank you again, Woody. Yeah, very enlightening.
Thank you very
much. Yeah, the stuff I found out, I was just like, my jaw was dropping. I couldn't believe some of this stuff. So, Pat, you had some great words. I love it. Evie, take us home here.
Okay.
Evie, first, do you have a phone number or any contact information for Chartier?
I do.
Oh, do you? Could you
Bone
send
does.
it to
I
me,
do
please?
not. Bone does. The
Send
only
it.
thing I know, Sharts is in. Last I talked to Sharts, he was in.
Myrtle Beach, yeah.
Okay.
No, he
He's-
moved.
he's not there.
Park
Virginia.
City, Utah.
I thought he was in Charlottesville. Okay.
Okay.
I don't maybe.
Well, last
maybe
I talked
mixing
to him,
up.
he was in Park
Okay.
City, Utah.
Here's why I'm asking. I'd like to talk to him, but Pepe Perron, who was our first All-American soccer player, is going to be inducted into High Point University's Hall of Fame in May.
Cool.
High Point has decided, because the Hall of Fame just started about 10 years ago, there's a long list of NAI guys and student athletes who will never get in the Hall of Fame because we're now 30 years into Division I.
Right.
And so we came up with the idea of recognizing and honoring teams during different eras.
Yeah.
So we did that last year with the tennis team that had been in 5 straight national tournaments. But this year we're honoring the soccer teams, 74, 75, 76, 77, which is Ray Alley was the 74, and then Chartier was the other 3.
Yeah.
And also the 80, 81, 82 teams when I was a head coach, because they won 3 straight conference championships.
Right.
So we're trying to reach out and find all of these people to invite them to the banquet. And I tried my best to get in touch with. I called every number I had and Googled Chartier. So if you got it, please, if you don't mind,
I already sent it to you. Check your phone.
Okay,
Woody,
thank you.
Woody, check your phone. Hey, Evie, did you say he's in Utah? Is that what you said?
Last I talked to him, and this was 3 years ago at the convention, they had just moved to Park City, Utah. Now, I don't know if that's, they live in there 6 months of the year because Sharks love to ski, and they go, back to Myrtle Beach because he had 2 boats, and I don't know, but that they had just moved out there, so I don't know if they're still out there or not. So,
gotcha.
And the Bone, were you at Warren Wilson in '75?
No.
Okay, so this is my High Point story. Okay.
Okay.
Gonna end it. Okay.
Okay. So 1975 is Hank's best, the best team at Warren Wilson, right? We got to the, I don't know what it was, district or regional. We have to play Campbell University.
And you played at High Point.
And we played at High Point because it had to be we're playing Campbell, and it had to be a neutral site, and it was halfway between Asheville and Dunn, North Carolina, right? We go over there. We're playing. This was Roland went over and pissed on the field like he always did. This is all pregame stuff, right? We get off the vans. We're pitching pennies because that was a ritual that we did in that whole playoff run. And we're 1 game away from going to the NAIA national tournament, which back then, and Woody's familiar with this, was really a cool tournament because you had 12 teams in 4 brackets or 4 pools. They played a round robin, and then everybody, it was like a World Cup basically, except at a smaller scale. So this has haunted me to this day. We're playing Campbell. We are down 1-0, but we're banging on the door, and they come down, they shoot, and it's just a run of the mill dive to your right, save, and I spilled it. And I don't know, to this day, I don't know why, right? And I spilled it, and they scored off the rebound, and I have, I'll take it to my grave. I'll take it to my grave, So
You're not alone, brother.
That's my high.
You're not alone.
Sorry. Yeah, but I mean, no, but it literally was in both hands, and it rolled away,
Wow.
So yeah, and I always, every time I see the boys at Warren Wilson, I apologize for it. So
we ought to have a podcast sometime when we have guys on where we tell those stories for each other, where misery loves company.
Yeah,
where we can all share. We can all put our post-it on the wall of shame, right? Here's mine on the wall of shame. This is what happened. That would be a good one.
Yeah, it would be a good one because it's crazy. I think, and you guys are goalkeepers, so you can tell me, but you remember maybe your 2 or 3 best saves you ever made, right? But you remember your 4 or 5 or 6 blunders that in this game, for example, in this situation, costs us going to the national tournament. And that's what you remember. It's weird, but that's what you remember.
I will remember that game.
Do you?
Yeah, and if you don't mind, I'm gonna correct you. It was 1974.
Was it
Because
74?
yeah.
Okay.
Yes, it was, because I was before I became affiliated with soccer. It was an open stadium, but we sold tickets because we had to.
Yeah.
And I was the guy selling tickets. That's what I did.
Okay. Okay.
That's what I
Once again.
I do remember the game, but I didn't watch any of it because I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
But I knew how to sell tickets. So but we had to, but it was a wide open field, but we had to sell tickets because that was the NAI rules about things.
Yeah. I'd never forget that. Once again, Woody Gibson, jack of all trades, master of every one.
Well done, Woody. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us.
It's great to see you guys. Pat, I'm glad to reconnect with you. Second time
here,
now.
Woody.
There you go.
Pleasure.
And EV, it's great to see you. See you guys again. Please stay in touch. You got my phone number. Stay in. If you're back, and if you're back here again, give me a call and we'll go to lunch or something.
We'll do.
Sounds great, Woody.
Any of you, if you're here at High Point, just let me know. That's what I do. Now I'm retired and I'm almost 78 years old. I go to lunch. That's what I do.
That's perfect. That's perfect. All right, boys.
Thank you, sir.
Talk to you later. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Bye, guys.
Thank you for watching and listening to the 3 Old Goalies podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform or on YouTube. Follow us on social media. And if you enjoyed the show, give us a like or a 5-star review. That helps us reach more listeners just like you. And truly, thank you for being one of our 3 listeners.